I am comforted by the knowledge that there are people, like those of you filling this room tonight, who are fighting for equity and opportunities for them because you did the same for me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kara Robinson. I'm a 24-year-old Black woman. I'm a housing in action homeowner. And I'm incredibly honored to be here. Before moving into my beautiful house in North Minneapolis, I lived in St. Paul for several years in a very small shoebox studio apartment on the third floor of a building with no elevator. Last fall, I found out that I would need to have major reconstructive leg surgery, hence the help up the stairs, and I scheduled it for June of 2025. I was very quickly thrown into looking for a new place to live because, as you can imagine, months of crutching up the stairs was not the most appealing option. I knew I needed to move, and I set my sights on Minneapolis. In St. Paul, I find there's a popular narrative that Minneapolis is unsafe, maybe unsuitable for long-term investments like home ownership. The truth about the city, from my experience living in North Minneapolis, is that it is a rich community with a breadth of marginalized peoples. I find the disparaging narrative has a lot more to do with societal bias against the city's residents than factors that create actual danger. Housing in Action partnered with the City of Lakes Community Land Trust on my house and worked to lower barriers between people like me and sustainable housing. Housing in Action provided targeted support and resources about homeownership and financial literacy throughout the buying process. The education-based supports specifically were essentially vital to me. They helped me close the generational gaps about building home equity, building my credit, and learning about the housing market, and that is just scratching the surface. Even though I don't have my family with me in Minnesota, they're across the country in Florida, I didn't feel so alone throughout this very daunting process. And thank you to Anne over there and her team. I felt incredibly prepared and informed by the time I closed on my house. My house is more than just a house to me. Stability was never really an option for me growing up. My parents were divided in a pretty brutal, high-conflict divorce, and I kept most of my life in a backpack as a young kid. I lived between two houses for a large chunk of my childhood, and so home wasn't very simple for me. I faced many different forms of adversity at home earlier than most kids do, none of which were helped by my lack of ownership and agency around my living situation. As my awareness of the world expanded, I never dared to dream of owning my own home. Before I had the language to name it, I knew that the political and economic state of the country didn't allow for those kind of opportunities for people like me. As a young adult, I limited myself to complacency in small apartments year to year, and I figured that would be my future. I continued to save money for a future in a home that I didn't believe I'd ever reach. It wasn't until I found Housing in Action that I began to imagine how a vision of my life could be changed by homeownership. These days, I drive home from work every day through the tree-lined streets of North Minneapolis. I park in my garage, I unlock my door, and I exhale the stress of every day when I close my door behind me in my own home. Yeah. People often mention increasing access to opportunities in conversations about housing justice. And Housing in Action increased my access to the opportunity to begin healing a younger version of myself who never had the stability I worked so hard to build with the help of Housing in Action. I'm constantly inspired by the impact Housing in Action has made in my life. I work at an elementary school, and so many of its students are Black and brown kids. So many of the lives they share remind me so much of my own at their ages. I'm empowered to support them every day. I am comforted by the knowledge that there are people, like those of you filling this room tonight, who are fighting for equity and opportunities for them because you did the same for me. Thank you.